Hello, listeners of Attesting Podcast. I'm Nyein Chan May, your host. This episode will be streamed in English and will cover a topic which will interest you all, migration and gender-specific challenges faced by asylum seekers from Myanmar in Germany. For this episode, I have invited a very special guest, Christopher Wohnig. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Let me introduce you. I have to pull up some information. Christopher Wohnig is a lawyer in Germany and specializing in migration and asylum law. He has been practicing in this field for 8 years and has represented many Myanmar nationals in court. So we can say that when it comes to asylum and migration rights for Myanmar citizens in Germany, Christopher is a leading expert. So we will start with some questions that our audience might be interested, might be curious about. Christopher, have you ever been to Myanmar?
Yes, I have been to Myanmar in 2013. I think it was for touristic reasons. I wasn't working as an asylum lawyer with many Myanmar people before that time, so I didn't have that much knowledge about the country than I have now with all the talks I had with the Burmese people. So if I would do that trip now, it would be totally different with all the knowledge I have from my Burmese clients. But yeah, I was there.
So it means that you are familiar with Myanmar both before and after the coup. So let's talk about, particularly in the context of asylum and migration rights. Let's talk about some differences. What differences do you see between now and then, or what has remained the same?
Situation for Myanmar citizens and in an asylum case in Germany changed totally with the coup. But that it changed that much had also to do with the wrong view the German asylum authorities and the courts had on Myanmar before the coup, because they were thinking about Myanmar as a normal democracy. The Aung San Suu Kyi had the Peace Nobel Prize. They were thinking about that the military and the police were protecting minorities like the Central European democracies do it. So it changed a lot, but it also had to do that before the coup, the German authorities were thinking about Myanmar as a normal democracy with minority rights. And this had something to do with the electoral success of the NLD, but also with the lack of information about the country before the coup and after the coup also. So there are differences, but the same as that we still have a lack of information about the country, about actors like Mabata or something like that, or how it is to live as a Muslim in Myanmar, or also about LGBTQ community or women in Myanmar. So there's a lack of information before the coup, but it's still there.
So the lack of information is still there. So this is still the same. But in the meantime, you also mentioned about religion and also people being persecuted because of their religion, because of their sexual orientation, and also because they are women. So this is like, you can say from time to time, it became different, or would you say, yeah, because you mentioned the challenge before the coup, it was also, I can imagine that it is challenging, because to, let's say, to convince that a person is politically persecuted during the era of Aung San Suu Kyi, let's say 2012, let's say 2012 to 2015. This is quasi democracy, and then in the meantime, after 2015 and 2020. So, could you please a bit elaborate on that?
Yeah, before the coup, people who applied for asylum in Germany, they also came because of political reasons. Were people like they were political activists. They became in conflict with the military. They were political activists. They were activists for minorities. They supported Rohingya groups, they supported Muslim groups or Muslims who supported the Muslim community. The Meitila massacre in 2013, people who donated to Muslim communities after that, but also students who had problems with the military because of their activism in the water festival. Things like that. Also people who demonstrated against Aung San Suu Kyi and her role in the Rohingya genocide. So also people who are part of the LGBTQ community because homosexual activities are illegal in Myanmar. So these reasons they all also came before the coup. After the coup, it's nearly the same. The perspective of the authorities is a different one because now they understand that Myanmar is not a democracy. The military is very brutal against them. Now the people come because they are activists in the demonstrations after the coup, but the reasons are nearly the same.
Okay, so let's talk about, because I have been thinking about the terms asylum and asylum seekers, because in Myanmar and also within the diaspora here in Germany, especially in Germany, because we are in Germany, let's talk about it. There is still a taboo around these terms. So seeking for asylum or being an asylum seeker, or the term itself, asylum, and as well as stigma toward the people who are seeking for asylum or those who were granted their asylum rights. So shall we discuss about it? Because, I mean, seeking for asylum is not a reason to discriminate anybody at all, and also not to stigmatize a person. So could you maybe elaborate on that?
Yeah, of course. Seeking for asylum is a very important humanitarian right. It's one of the most important rights, that you can be safe from persecution when you have persecution in your home country, that you can go to another country and be safe of persecution there. So it's an elementary human right, and to claim human rights or rights in general is nothing negative. It's a right to claim your rights. So it's the asylum case is something very hard for the people, because it has very hard consequences for them to go to a camp, to live in a camp. You are not allowed to work at the beginning, but it's nothing someone has to think negative about, because it's a human right to apply for asylum. And people who are forced to leave their country, they need support by others, and this is a very elementary right. Yeah.
Yes, of course, it's the fundamental human rights, and also even in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it's also written that this is a fundamental human right, that people can seek for asylum, and also people can seek for a place where they can feel safe. So this is also what upsets me a lot, or when I hear like people discriminate other people for being asylum seekers, which is completely unacceptable, and also which is not a reason to tell somebody that, okay, you are an asylum seeker, so you are one level lower than us or something. It's like, treating a person as a lower grade. So it is not to be accepted at all. I also have some statistics from BAMF for our audience. BAMF is the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees, and covering the asylum applications from Myanmar from the year 2021 to 2024. So in 2021, there were 88 asylum applications, and while in 2024, there were 427. It has risen to 427, which is roughly like 5 times higher. And let's discuss about various reasons of the displacement of Myanmar people. So you already mentioned at the beginning the reasons of seeking for asylum and so on. But in the meantime, in your daily work, what do you experience? For example, people migrate for different reasons, so they escape from war, or they escape from armed conflicts, or they seek for better opportunity to live, or another livelihood options, or they were escaping poverty. So which kind of reasons do you encounter in your daily work? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are different type of groups. So the first group are the people who seek for asylum here. They have a persecution in Myanmar. That's why they leave. Persecution could be because they were involved in the demonstrations after the coup, or they donated to PDF or NUG. They left the country to the border to Thailand and then came to Germany and seek for asylum, like political refugees, also people from minorities, religious minorities, ethnic minorities, people from the LGBTQ community. And there's a lot of people after the conscription law who are in fear that they have to go to the military when they are 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And this is also a big topic because of the conscription law, that the people flee from Myanmar because they don't want to go to the military and be part of the humanitarian crime the military does against their own people. And there are also a group of people who already have a residence permit in Germany, mm-hmm. and they don't get a new passport in Germany. I think we will talk about it a little bit later too. It's a big topic because the Myanmar embassy in Germany doesn't give new passports to them. And there's also the part of people who are part of demonstrations in Germany against the military and the military coup. So there's a big community here from Burmese people who organize demonstrations in front of the embassy in Berlin. From German Solidarity Myanmar organizes this, or donation events. And they are part of this oppositional group, and they apply for asylum here to get the blue passport because the Myanmar embassy doesn't give new passports to them, and that's a big problem for their residents in Germany. And then we have another group of people who had working residence permit in Hungary, and they organized themselves in political groups in Hungary, and they didn't get new Myanmar passport from the embassy in the Czech Republic, which is responsible for the people there. And they came to Germany to seek for asylum because the asylum conditions in Hungary are very bad. But what they all have in common is that they are in opposition to the military, that they organize themselves in political groups, they donate to oppositional groups, and that's why they are in danger if they return to Myanmar, because the military is looking for them if they return, and that's why they apply for asylum here. That's what they all have in common.
All right. This podcast is also about, this podcast is about feminism, and also is about gender-specific power abuse within the society, within Burmese society. And also this is an attempt to encounter, or let's say to smash the patriarchy. So let's talk about women and LGBTIQA+, because you also mentioned at the beginning people being persecuted because of their sexual orientation. And I also have some statistics. So according to the Federal Institute of Population Research, the proportion of women and girls seeking protection in Germany has increased to 45%. This is incredibly increasing over the past 2 years. And this trend is also, of course, evident around the world. And more girls and women, they have to escape, they have to flee their home countries because of war, and also sexual violences, and also political persecution. And in the meantime, let's say we also have some statistics from Burmese Women Unions, BW. Alone in the year of 2024, 478 women were killed because of the conflict and because of the war in Myanmar. And we have to say here that the actual numbers may be higher than that. So women in Myanmar continue to lose their lives because due to sexual violences, gang rapes, and also other human rights abuses. And female political prisoners, you also know that female political prisoners, they are facing torture and also inhumane treatments within prisons, and sexual violences and also sexual assault and harassment became their daily reality. And in your work, I'm sure that you also encounter such kind of gender-specific differences in the experience of being refugees and also asylum seekers. Specifically in Myanmar case, or you can also talk about general cases?
Yeah, it's both. Especially there are aspects for Myanmar women, especially in asylum cases, as you said, we have to look at the conditions women are facing in Myanmar. And this could be a reason of persecution. And to say this from the beginning, to get the refugee protection status in the European Union, you need a persecution, but you also need a reason of persecution. It can be a political persecution, a religious persecution, sexual persecution, and can be a persecution because you are part of a social group. And this being part of a social group plays a very important role for all the cases of especially persecutions for women. So as you said, female political prisoners face special torture and inhuman treatment in prison in Myanmar. And this is different to male people in prison. So we have to think about that the violence against women can be totally different than against men. Also, women in Myanmar lose their lives because of the war, because the military uses sexual violence against women as a war strategy, yeah, and to like rape or sexual violence against women, and also this should be accepted as a reason of persecution in an asylum case. And this is very important because there's a interesting decision of the European Court of Justice. And this says that this plays a role in gender-specific violence against women, like in cases where the persecutor is a husband because the woman decided to leave the husband without he's not given the okay for that, and like a one-sided decision from the woman. She doesn't want to live with the husband together. And for these cases, or all the cases, especially for women, this decision of the European Court of Justice is very important because there are like three big problems if we speak about persecution and women and the refugee status. The first problem is that we need a reason of persecution. So we need to define women as a part of a social group. The second problem is that you don't get a refugee status if the authority thinks that the Myanmar military or Myanmar police is protecting you from violence of your husband, for example. And the third problem is that if you are safe in another part of the country from persecution of your husband or former husband as a woman, then you don't get a refugee status too. And this European Court of Justice decision says that women who are exposed to violence in their country of origin can constitute a social group. And this means that a woman can be defined as a part of a social group. And then according to this ruling, violence that comes from private individuals, like a husband, can be also lead to asylum protection. And that this is very important. This plays a role when a woman is persecuted by the husband. Yeah. But now there's still two more problems that you can say maybe the police or the military protects the woman from the persecutor, from the husband, or she's safe in other parts of the country. And then it's very important to have a look on the situation of women in the country. Like if you say the police is able to protect are they willing to protect? If the police or the authorities are male-based, there are no women there, why should they protect women from the persecutor, the husband, if they are interested to keep this male system alive? So it's very complicated to explain to authorities and courts that maybe the authorities are not willing to protect the woman because we don't have a lot of informations in many countries for that. But if you see that the authorities are male-based, it could be that they are not interested to protect women from husbands because they are interested to keep the male-based system alive.
This is this really, really interesting point, because you raised the point of gender data gap. Because gender data gap is not only in the context of asylum and migration rights, but also overall in every context. For example, there's gender pay gap. There also we also have a book called Invisible Women, because women were and are still invisible, not invincible, invisible in many contexts. For example, in this context, I also did some research, for example, about the country report by the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees, and from BAMF, and this is for our audience. BAMF is the German abbreviation for this office. And unfortunately, I have to find out that there is still some gender data gap, talking about when it comes to asylum and also refugees in Myanmar, or let's say, so because I just read the report about Myanmar. And let me pop up a question here, Christopher. Are you a feminist?
If that means that I'm for equal rights for women and men, equal pay, and equal representation of women in authorities, yes, of course. The decisions are made by the husband, not mostly. Also, other things is the political activism is mostly with the male person, because the female person is keeping the kids and so on. So it's difficult, and sometimes we have the situation that only the male person comes to my office and wants to speak for everyone. But in these situations, I tell them that I can only speak with them together, because it's both the case of the woman and the man, not only his case. Yeah. And in totally, it's very important that you need to do research about the situation of women in specific countries, like here in Myanmar. You have to look for what is the traditional role of a woman in this country. If the woman decides by her own, could this be a problem for the society? Mm-hmm. Because this could be, the consequence could be that she's persecuted by family members or by authorities. But therefore, you need to look specifically at the role of the woman, traditional role of the woman in this country, to check if it's possible that she can be persecuted if she decides by her own without male actors. Yeah. And
I have to pop up the question, and again another question. So you mentioned very, very important points, that you have to do research in specific context, and also you have to take it in the bigger picture, how a specific country is treating women and a marginalized group, such as LGBTIQA+, and so these kind of informations, I mean, these are enormously. What do you think? Like the German authorities, they possess such kind of knowledge?
For some countries, yes. When the number of people is very high from this country, a lot of people from Afghanistan or Syria, they seek for asylum here. Yes, they have more information. Myanmar, the number of people who seek for asylum in Germany is not high. It's very low. And I have the feeling that this is why there are not that many informations, because there are not many people. And yeah, it's very important to have these informations, and it can be a role of NGOs to produce this informations. And yeah, there are some NGOs who do that, like German Solidarity Myanmar. They had a good report in December for asylum and resettlement. There are informations in this report you can use for the people. I can use it for like getting them a German passport for foreigners in Germany, and also for the asylum case. And it could be a topic in the future, like conscription law, how conscription law is working and how it affects women and men, and how women are treated in the military or by the military. But without this knowledge, if I go to the court and just tell what I'm thinking, I don't have really proof about that. And so it's very important to produce this knowledge.
Yes. So you are going into the direction of looking into future, and I also would like to go to a bit broader question. Let's talk about the transnational repression of the military junta in Myanmar. So one key aspect of that is a refusal to renew the passports of Myanmar citizens in Germany. Here in Germany is a big issue. That a lot of Myanmar citizens, they cannot renew their passport anymore, or a lot of Myanmar citizens, when they go to Myanmar embassy in Berlin, they were like, they were confronted with very prolonged process until the people don't have any perspectives into future anymore. So such kind of tactic, such kind of strategy of transnational oppression is now increasing. And I'm sure that you also experience a lot of that, such kind of cases. Maybe it is also important. It is also interesting for our audience. Could you please tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, that's a very big topic now. It affects nearly everyone from Myanmar who is not German citizen. So it affects people who had an asylum case but didn't get the refugee status. They get a lower protection level, like subsidiary protection or deportation ban. It also affects people who come to Germany with a visa and now have a residence permit for work, study, or family reasons. And the topic is that the Myanmar embassy in Germany, in Berlin, doesn't give new passports to Myanmar citizens. And the big problem is that they don't give anything. They just don't give the new passport. They don't give an information letter or something like that, that the person was at the embassy, tried to get the new passport, but they cannot give it to them. And this is a very big problem, because there is the possibility to get it's so-called Reiseausweis für Ausländer. It's a travel document for foreigners in Germany, for people for whom it's impossible or unreasonable to get a valid passport from their home country. Unreasonable, it's for people who are persecuted in their home country. They are not allowed to go to the embassy because at the embassy there is the persecutor, like here the Myanmar military. And impossible, it's for people who go there and they don't get a new one, and they try it again and again and they don't get a new one. And it's not easy to get this passport for foreigners, because you need to show a proof that it's impossible for you to get this passport. And if the Myanmar embassy doesn't give anything to the people, they don't have a proof. And I don't think that this is something what the Myanmar embassy knows. That's why they don't give it to the people. And now we have some good decisions from the foreign office, some foreign office around Germany about that, because they recognized that people who come out of an asylum case with a subsidiary protection or deportation ban, and people who are political activists in Germany and they are here with the residence to study, work, or family, they don't get a new passport at the Myanmar embassy, and then they can get the Reiseausweis für Ausländer, the passport for foreigners, and then it's possible for them to get a new residence permit, and then it's possible for them also to travel. But it's a very big topic and it's not easy, but we now have some informations and knowledge that makes it easier to get this travel document for foreigners, because the big danger is that if someone has a residence permit here and the Myanmar passport is not valid anymore, he will not get a new residence permit, because this residence permit in Germany has to get connected with the passport from your home country. And so that the Myanmar embassy doesn't give a new passport can destroy many residences of people who are here for a long time and they are shortly before finishing studies, if you don't get this passport for foreigners. So it's very important to show the authorities that the Myanmar embassy in Berlin is not giving new passports to the people, because I think that the Myanmar embassy in Berlin works like this. They think people from Myanmar who are not in Myanmar now, they are in other countries, they are against the military. That's why we don't get them a new passport, because otherwise, if they were supporters of the military, they would be in Myanmar and fighting for the military.
ရှင်တို့ကမင်းအောင်နိုင်အပါဝင်စစ်ရာဇဝတ်ကောင်တွေကိုအလုတ်ကျွေးပြုတ်ပြီးတော့ရုံးထဲမှာစိန်နဲ့ထိုင်နေပြီးတော့လူတွေကိုဒုက္ခပေးတယ်ဒုက္ခကိုအမျိုးမျိုးပေးတယ်ဘလို့ပေးလဲဆိုရင် passport သက်တမ်းမတိုးပေးဘူး passport သက်တမ်းမတိုးပေးတော့ဒီကလူတွေဘလို့နေမလဲကိုလည်းလိပ်ပြမလုံရဘူးเนาะအဲ့တော့ကိုလည်းလိပ်ပြမလုံတဲ့အပြင်ကိုတိုင်းပြည်လည်းကိုပြန်ကြည့်အောင်မီးလောင်နေတာစစ်ဖြစ်နေတာခလေးတွေသိနေတာမိန်းမတွေသိနေတာယောက်ျားတွေသိနေတာ
I mean, this is also a phenomena of the transnational repression. So you also mentioned that the Myanmar military, or let's say the military, the embassy, which is loyal to the military here in Berlin and Germany, and they do not want to, or let's say they refuse to renew the passports of the political activists or people who are politically active, or people who just participated in the demonstrations in front of the embassy, and showing that they are performing the command of the military junta in Myanmar. So it is like the extended arm of Naypyidaw in Berlin. So in the meantime, this is also how the modern dictators are doing it strategically to oppress the people, oppress their citizens and their own citizens also abroad. So such kind of information, such kind of knowledge should be acknowledged by the authorities, because you are now telling me that there are some challenges and let's say even though burdens, because the German authorities are not aware of that, not aware of these kind of challenges that Myanmar citizens are having. And also they are automatically forced. So you mentioned this Reisepass für Ausländer. So it's like a substitute passport for foreigners. And if, not everybody knows about that. So this is also a challenge for Myanmar people. And so let's talk about it. What do you think? What should be changed? You already mentioned about producing knowledge and also keep informing the authorities about Myanmar and stuff. You already mentioned so many important questions, so many important points. But if you have any additional points to add, just the floor is yours.
Yeah, we need to get the knowledge also to the German authorities so that they know about the situation at the Myanmar embassy in Berlin, for example. They need to know how the Myanmar embassy in Berlin treats the people here, that they don't give the new passports, because it's a big problem if someone who lives in Berlin gets this Reiseausweis für Ausländer passport for foreigners, but in Munich not. And this is the danger I see. So we need something from, I think the German authorities have to tell all the German foreign offices around the country that people from Myanmar need to get this passport for foreigners when Myanmar passport is the validity is over because the Myanmar embassy doesn't give the new passport to them. The other thing is that we have to look at the important knowledge about Myanmar, like about minorities, LGBTQ community, women, that the courts and the refugee authority, BAMF, is working with that. And it cannot play a big role that not many people from Myanmar are in Germany, because everyone has to be treated the same way. If he's from Afghanistan or Syria or Myanmar in an asylum case, it's about that the person could be in danger of life if he returns to his home country. So it's very important to check very intensively if there's a danger if this person returns. And this is very important too. And for the future, I think the conscription law is a very big topic, because in my opinion, till now, the courts and the refugee authority, BAMF in Germany, they are not really interested in this conscription law. And for me, the conscription law is like a door opener to get the refugee protection status for Myanmar citizens in Germany, because it's totally clear, and we all know about that. If you have to be at the military, you are doing crimes against humanity in Myanmar. And the refugee law book says that who is forced to do military service, in this service he has to be part of war crimes by the military, this person has a right to get the refugee status. And it's totally clear that the Myanmar military does war crimes. So if you are in this age to go to that you have to go to the military, then you have the option to not to go there. Then you face prison sentences to 5 years. And if you go there, you have to be part of war crimes. Both has the consequence that you have to get the refugee status here. So this is a big topic in the future too. Yes.
Thank you very much, Christopher, for your insights. And in the meantime, it is very important to highlight that being a woman and also or being a member of LGBTIQA+ community is also different. Is also different in context of being a refugee. So I do really appreciate that you mentioned the points. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope that the audience will also get some information, some general information about the landscape in Germany. And in the meantime, I also would like to invite our audience to write something in comments or to our message boxes if you have any questions at all. And yes, Christopher also mentions a report about asylum and resettlement for Myanmar refugees in Germany. This is a report by an NGO called German Solidarity Myanmar. You can also download it. Also, we will mention it in the link. You can also download it and read it. It is available in both English and German languages. Christopher, I also knew that you were also legally advising the report. That's why the report is very good. Let's say. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. And if you enjoy our episode, please like and share and follow us on Instagram and also on Facebook. And in the meantime, you can also subscribe us on YouTube. And you can also support us with your clicks and share and also your views. Each and every view helps us to continue this podcast. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your important work.